right.
Let's do it. Radio the way it should be.
You are listening to Slap Radio.
What's good, High State? We are broadcasting live from the Slap Studio in Chinatown High, where the streets and the arts meet. We got DJ Drum on the turntables. We got Mike behind the lens. Also Apollo. I'm your host, James Westbrook, and you're tuning in to Slap Radio, the sight and sound of Hawaii. Joining us today, we got a special guest in the house. He is an MC, released multiple albums, collaborated with multiple local artists as well as artists abroad, which include Kid Cudi, Tony Williams, producer, No ID, and Dilated Peoples. He was featured on Complex.com and many other blogs. He's also a business owner and entrepreneur. Flip the Bird, which is apparel featured all over the world, 130 stores across the nation with Foot Action. He's also released shoes with Run Athletics. He's also dabbled in sake. He has a new album coming out, which is H.I. Starry, and he's also a proud father of Johnny Taru. Ladies and gentlemen, Tassho Pearce.
What up, what up?
So yeah, you started out with the whole Brownbacks to Stardom, and that basically was the start of your whole crew going in with the Humanakas?
That was actually just me and Malala and Mr. Rios on the beat. That's our first performance. We weren't even the Humanakas at that point, but that's the starting point, I guess. We were just hanging out, freestyling a lot, and then we had organized a little bit more after that, and got a little bit more active once we formed a group, started recording. We put out actually a cassette, which people probably don't even know what that is at this time and era. What the fuck, a cassette?
Of course, yeah. Because right now it's with the digital age, right?
No, we had put out a tape in '96. That's with my crew, the Humanakas, and that's how we started. Just in ciphers, any type of microphone we could get on it and performing, and got to do a few, start opening up for artists, which was like the apex for what we could imagine that we could accomplish. We really wanted to put Hawaii on the map, but we really didn't have any idea what that would mean. We didn't have a clear list of goals that we wanted to accomplish, but by opening up for those artists, we kind of felt like, oh wow, this is it. We made it to the highest level. You know what I mean? We're on stage with our idols. So, and then fortunate enough to continue on and do that.
So explain a couple of artists that you opened up for.
Wow, you know what? The first show was, and it's kind of our 360 full circle right now because I'm opening up for the Far Side March 29th. My man Libra, Just Bone, and Sick Dog Next Door. And the first show I did was with the Humanakas, and we opened for Booyah Tribe and Farside. And this is right a little bit after Farside dropped. I don't know, when did that tape come out? 93? I don't know. Something 92, 93 for Bizarre Ride. So that was one of our first shows. That was at UH.
Okay.
Yeah, in one of those rooms over there. Yeah.
And then from there, you just connected with people. How did you get the connects to open up for all these artists?
Well, we were definitely like about rapping and like, representing our city. And what we faced at that time was a lot of, you rap, you do hip hop, you're from Hawaii. What the fuck do you know about hip hop? So
what was the misconception? What was the conception about the whole?
Just from people coming outside looking in, Hawaii has the image of just really it's a vacation. People come dream and work their whole life to come here, and that's the image that people have in their mind.
Of course.
And then we're also just out there doing our thing and fighting and getting stabbed and people mobbing, and there's just a lot of it was the 90s. There's a lot of more gang violence, whether there was guns or not back then. Hawaii doesn't have as much of that activity, but people were still flexing, people were still fighting, and we were coming up in all of that. So we really just any opportunity we could get out and represent our crew and be a force in the game, that's what we were trying to do. So yeah, that's how we met a lot of artists. We didn't really network at that time. We was just, on our own, developing our own sound. And I don't think we were ready, even if we had reached out to some artists at that time, whether it was, hieroglyphics, or even the biggest was Wu-Tang, and opened for the Roots, things like that. Definitely weren't even on the level to really do anything with them at that point. We were still in the embryonic stages, but later on I was able to kind of, when I felt ready, reach out to artists on a professional level and work on shit.
When you were ready, were you already with the Humanakas, or was this when you went
we thought we were.
Immerse?
Yeah, we thought we were all the way ready. We had a good buzz, man. We had a good run too, just life kind of kicks in after a while. People, get distracted with other things. As we were talking about earlier, a lot of distractions in the islands, a lot of extracurricular things happening in the peripherals that can kind of like shiny things that distract you off the path, So
Absolutely.
things like that were happening. People were having kids. And just to put some perspective, like as far as like trying to make some things happen in Hawaii, the struggle, being from an island like this where there's not a big hip hop community or hip hop industry. I was 8 years in the game before I even got my first break, which was Honolulu, so it was it's a long, you got to really put in that long hunt. By 8 years, some of the dudes that you were right and left of you coming up, all of a sudden you don't really see them around. Other people are fading in, fading out. Newer generations are coming in, but I've been fortunate and blessed enough to, like, as I said, my first tape came out in '96 with the Humanakas. Probably my most current project and most relevant project came out in 2016 with Good Company. Was able to do a lot of things with that record. Of course, work with Cudi, No ID, and did interviews on Shea 45 and things like that. So it was a big that was a big moment, to be able to still do that after 20 years in the game. Being my third solo project at that point. And at this point I really I don't have anything to prove. I'm just what I've done. I know I push the needle forward, and it's like my goal was to put Hawaii on the map. I definitely let people know that we have bars. I was a part of that, contribution amongst a lot of other people. There's people talking about the face of Hawaii hip hop, and that's so many faces at any given time. Whether it's Iga, my guys from Humanakas, Malala Moon, and then to VM, and then Abyss, Cavett the Catalyst. There's some Omega 6, Westbrook, Drama. There's always different faces that One Night Stand that represented this hip hop culture out here, and that's an ever shifting thing. And at any moment, one of us had to hold it down for the city, and be the one. So, yeah, that's. I was lucky to be the face for a while.
Absolutely. I mean, coming out of Kaiser High School. Right? Kalani. Yeah. Sorry, you were coming out of Kalani High School and doing the Brown Bags thing, getting your guys' name out there, and then connecting with the other MCs. How did you connect to create the Humanakas?
I think Mr. Rios, he was the only person we knew of that made beats. He had come from New York, and he was at Kaiser, and I think we just had mutual friends, and we just connected the dots, and we met up with Aaron from, he was Roosevelt. We formed a crew, and we just, started catching wreck, wilding out. Yeah, trying to just body every show that we could get.
Was Mr. Rios the recording engineer?
He's the original producer for Humanakas, and then he was also the producer for Invisible Ink when we linked with Size One, who's like a
shout out Size One.
Hip-hop pioneer out here for sure. And then we hooked up with Jimmy Taco, helped me record my whole first project. That was the first start of my relationship with Taco, who held me down for a number of years after that with Flip the Bird. So yeah, that was a good time. A lot of great individuals, talented individuals, just making dope shit. That was always the goal. Put Hawaii on the map. Make dope shit, and through my career, I'm definitely, like I said, I'm proud of what I've been able to do. Like as far as releasing music, I put out records with Dilated Peoples, Apathy, of course, recorded music with Kid Cudi, No ID. For those who are new to me, I know a lot of new artists aren't really familiar. Even though I've been putting work out here, there's a whole nother generation. So that's some of the things I've done, as well as being able to contribute to other artists' albums, as far as like Malik Youssef. His album he put me on was, had Kanye on there, Common, KRS-One was on that album. So it's always been the goal to go bar for bar with some of the best in the game, and on those platforms, it really felt like, like if my bars are right there with the people that are coming out.
Absolutely, you were able to do that. You were able to prove that.
Even with the Qbert album, had Cool Keith is on there, LP, from Code Flow. So it's like when the goal was to I want to really put my bars against the best in the game. It's like God was like, okay, here you go. Let's see what you can do. Put me on a wake-up show with Pharoah Monch at the same fucking time on the mic and see what happens. You know what I mean? It was that's a lot of pressure. That's one of the God MCs, and had to show and prove. And that verse ended up being on the wake-up show best of compilation. Even before that, freestyling in the Bay Area on a show called Beat Sauce with a young LP who had just dropped the Fun Crusher EP. They were doing promo out there, and LP's a beast, and he was doing all his Fun Crusher bars, he's killing it, all that Code Flow shit, Company Flow, for those who are not familiar. This is before the Raucous. This is when they had their vinyl white label, and definitely one of the pioneers of that underground, pushing the boundaries of lyricism. So I was thrown into the fire real early, even before 8 years when I said we had the break with Honolulu. These are just years of just paying dues. You don't really get a lot of recognition in Hawaii.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as hip hop, I had to go outside, and I wouldn't, not so much recognition, but just connecting and seeing if our skills were on par with what was happening out there.
So Tassho, tell me how you went from Humanakas, and then all of a sudden you went and started doing your own career, and you started connecting with artists outside of Hawaii. Mm-hmm. At the time, there was no Instagram, there was none of those social media aspects, maybe MySpace. Right. How did you connect with all these artists to get on their records, to get a chance to hang out with them?
Just organically, man, just hanging out like we're hanging out here, and a lot of time people, when they come to Hawaii, it's their first time here experiencing it. They want to get with somebody on the ground that's connected and knows how to move around. So that was my role. Make sure that everybody was good when they got here. If they needed any assistance, make sure they could go, whether it was go visit some sites or anything like that, besides just opening up. That was the first step, is establishing a reputation and a relationship with the promoters to be able for them to trust me to open up for a Red Man when he comes to town, and which was a crazy show. They had me going for like an hour, and I
that's a lot.
Yeah, and I don't even think I had an album out at that point. That was before Rhyme and Punishment had dropped, but I had Welcome to High State mixtape, so we just performed all of those songs.
So what'd you do? You gave the tapes to the promoters?
Yeah, definitely. Anything I had that, we didn't have people had EPKs at that time. I didn't have any of that. I had to, I would have a CD and just, reach out to them however I could to try to, whether it's email or get somebody's number, and just trying to let them know, I'm available. They need someone, and through the years had built up a little bit of momentum. So
absolutely. And we definitely want to get into how you connected with Kanye West, Tony Williams, Kid Cudi, but we'll get into that to the next segment. But right now we're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about that. Tassho Pearce, everybody. We are back in the mix right now. We got Tassho Pearce. You're listening to Slap Radio right now.
What up, what up?
And we're talking about basically building the relationships organically. And when Kanye West and his crew was out here, how were you able to facilitate that relationship?
You know, just the same way. However, you know, I met other artists was just through opening up and being the, you know, performer that opened up when people came to Hawaii. So that's the first time that I met him, and then was lucky enough, you know, for them to invited me into their circle as far as, you know, during 808s and Heartbreaks and during Dark Twisted Fantasy, just to kind of be a fly on the wall and witness, you know, pure greatness, artistry at the highest level, a genius in his prime. It was, you know, something that I'll probably never be able to even put into words. And there's definitely probably the greatest moments of my, you know, life, just being in that environment with those guys and learning and seeing how they create and made those albums. So, you know, pretty much that encompasses it. You know, there's not really much you can do, like, as far as after that. What can top that energy? You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
That's creatively the apex of, you know, what I've ever been able to accomplish, even though I was just, you know, there as the homie, and every once in a while I'd be able to contribute here and there, creatively. But for the most part, I just, the experience itself was the biggest blessing in that whole situation. So I've been, you know, blessed to be able to do those records and behind the scenes, you know, help out with other records that have, you know, really reached a lot of people, you know.
So let's talk about studio etiquette, because when you're in the studio, what should you and should you not do when you're in the presence of a Kanye West or anyone of that caliber?
Man, I don't know. That's for each individual's decision. You know, that's how you carry yourself is how you carry yourself. I will say that definitely in my case, just had to definitely humble myself and realize, however established I am here, you know, as my own artist in this bubble. You know, that was the scene out here at that time. I felt like I was had accomplished a good amount. But when you put yourself in that circle, in that perspective, there's no room for that, for me to have a big ego when you look at what this man has accomplished and what all these artists coming in have accomplished, you know, in their own right. And it was like a training ground at those studios. Like, I remember even before Cudi had signed to Good Music, he got flown out to Hawaii. He was with Ye. They were working on 808s. And to Sci-Hi, boom, flown out to Hawaii. You know, and then next thing you know, it was Good Music to Big Sean to Pusha. It was a whole process of everybody seeing it, you know, already knowing, you know, their music through underground mixtapes and shit, but then seeing them connect with Ye on that production level and seeing their just whole level of creativity and success go to where it went, to where they're all their own individual superstars now. So yeah, it was intense, and it was fucking super sick experience beyond words. Definitely. And Christian was there too. Graves, who's blowing up now and touring all over.
Absolutely.
He was there
Shout out Graves
every day, you know. So, and he knows about it. It's almost like a letdown after everybody leaves, and it's like, okay, what now? Like, that was just the most insane experience with making you know, probably the greatest hip hop album of all time. You know, everybody that was there working on that, you know, putting their energy into that process. So yeah, it was definitely amazing, and that was connecting with artists always been kind of natural, just through hip hop. You know, hip hop is what connects all of us, the music. If you can make something dope, and if you got a good energy and you can contribute, and then you got a place here, you know?
Absolutely.
Anybody got a place here.
So you got into the door not based off of music per se. You had your Flip the Bird brand. How did you get into the door when it was time?
Well, yeah, you know, that's definitely a good point for sure. Like, definitely was a way that opened doors was just through the clothing as opposed to the music. That's what made me stand out a little bit more, is that we did have some dope gear. And as I had mentioned before, like these experiences that, you know, I said I want to get to this level, I want to, you know, reach this highest level, and God, it felt like somebody's like reached down and was like, okay, here you go, and put these insane moments, you know, together to the point to where, like, and I want to do this, I want to put together like a t-shirt museum with the shirts that people wore from so the clothes that we made, we're able to release and give to certain artists. Other artists picked them up, but, you know, probably some of the GOATs, 2 out of the 3 GOATs for me, like, you know, Nas, Jay-Z, Eminem. I never got to get the Jay to wear anything, but I met Jay. But Eminem ends up wearing Flip the Bird, you know, a shirt that I designed. Probably one of my favorite MCs, huge influence on me as an artist. You know, get to meet him in the studio, give him some gear, and he ends up wearing it on his album cover for Relapse. And then Nas come out here, open up for him. Same time Ye and all them are out here, so we actually went to the YMCA and we're playing ball with Nas. I was on the Queens team with Consequence and Nas, and I think Nas's cousin Gabe. And then they had the Chicago team. I was Don C, Kanye, No ID, Common. I remember that game. We'd be playing at the YMCA just like it's nothing.
What YMCA was this?
This is over there by Alamwana, dude. I swear to God, people would be like in there like, what the? Like,
okay, so did they close? Did they close down?
Nah, man.
It was open court.
We just pull up and do pickup games. Yeah. So, and that game, I remember, like, dude, Common he did his movie, right? He was that movie with Queen Latifah. He's a baller, right? He has a trainer and all that.
Yeah.
Playing, get down to game point. I'm guarding Common. Comes down, freaking crosses, does crossover, fade away jumper. I jump up, try to block him in midair. I just hear, "That's game" in the Common voice. That's game, and I'm like floating in the air, and he hit the game-winning shot. But we ended up coming back. Queen's team came back, and I think Nas hit the game winner on that particular final game.
That's crazy how you went from merch, gear, Flip the Bird, to playing basketball with some of the greats. And
so then gave Nas some shit.
Okay.
He ended up wearing this stuff. There was like an after party that the promoters had done, but I was in the lab. I was like locked up. I was trying to work and keep that momentum going. Yeah. So I didn't even make it to that after party, but I saw pictures and he was wearing our hat and the sweater. And if you want to go all the way down to, like, you know, Chris Brown rocking it, he had copped the shirt on his own. There's photos of that out there. You know, Cuddy rocked us. Man, a lot of people, man. I'm trying to think who else. Frick.
Well, you had a lot of people rocking it. How did you come up with the design of Flip the Bird? What was the Flip the Bird idea?
I think I got the concept with my girl. We were up in Canada snowboarding, and I think there's a logo. I think it was White Spot or something with a bird, and it's similar. But in my mind, I was like, how do you flip that? And I had this idea in my mind. I had the picture of the logo that's on your shirt, the Flip the Bird logo. It was in my mind, but I couldn't. You know, I needed an artist to help me bring it to life. I did, you know, I just drew and stuff, but nothing serious there. I couldn't make a good logo. So at that time, I was cool with I'm still cool with, and, you know, much respect to Manifest, Jeff Hartzell, who did the poetry line. and I was kicking it with him. And I was like, man, I'm trying to do this logo, and he actually helped me with the first logo he designed and helped me with the Flip the Bird. I told him this is what we want to do. Excuse me. And what he had done is he had put it together, and I was like, this is, we want to tweak it a little bit more. So he's like, maybe my boy can help you. He introduced me to JT, John Thomas, former designer for World Industries, and he was able to like really take what Jeff had started and you know, the idea that I'd given and make it exactly how it should be. So that ended up being the logo. We did you know, shirts to promo the album. Sold a bunch of those shirts, and they started turning up, you know, everywhere.
Which album?
This is Rhyme and Punishment, you know, when Honolulu started taking off.
Right.
And then,
which is a great video, by the way.
Hey, right on. I think that was 15 years since, when we did that.
Wow.
16, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we gotta update. That video is hella old on YouTube. It looks really out. It's just pixels. I don't know what it's like.
Yeah,
just like,
for
looks
sure.
like it's like from VHS or something.
Well, at the time that you recorded it and you filmed it, that was like you was having aerial shots and all kind of stuff, man.
Yeah,
that was like,
it was lit.
Yeah, it was lit. It was dope coming down the, you know, the Poly Highway. You know what I mean? That was something to watch, man. So your clothing line, you had the design, you started getting it out to the artists, you started getting it out to people were rocking it, wearing it, and then you just kind of you took hold of it and took it to another level after that, right?
Yeah, that became my main job, my 9 to 5 pretty much. Just hustling the t-shirts, just hustling the shirts, hoodies, hats, you know, eventually, as you mentioned in the intro, the sneaker with Run Athletics, which I believe I'm the first unsigned hip-hop artist with his own sneaker when that dropped. Probably nowadays there's more, but at that particular time, we did the Humu Humu Nuku Nuku Apua'a, we did the Bird of Paradise, and we did the Shave Ice. So 3 silhouettes with my man Kevin Leong, who designed the Legacy sneaker, and of course Russell Simmons, who gave out, and Run Simmons,
right,
who gave the opportunity, which is crazy because I remember being at Aloha Stadium holding up my shoe, you know, when Run DMC came to town, and as a kid in like 2nd grade, that was my first real experience with hip-hop and made me, you know, fall in love. I think it was Run DMC and ZZ Top.
What shoe were you holding up?
Probably not. You know, in my mind it was a shell toe, but I didn't even. It was probably like a roux with the pockets in it. You know what I mean? I don't even know.
Well, look, we're about to go into a break right
Yeah.
now, but when we get back, let's talk about the meeting and how that whole shoe deal transpired.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tassho Pearce. Slap.
Radio the way it should be.
You are listening to Slap Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back in the mix right now. We got Tassho Pearce in the house.
Yeah.
Before we left off, we were talking about the meeting with Run Athletics and how that whole thing transpired. How did it happen?
Well, we had recorded in Invisible Ink in California, in Baldwin Hills, actually.
And Invisible Ink is who?
This was my project after Humanakas and the Freestillian and High State kind of was passed in the past, and I was just doing my own thing. I had hooked up. It was just me, Size One, Ha-Oh, and then I think Todd G came out with us, Size, and Mr. Rios, and so we had recorded all this whole project up there, and we met a gentleman by the name of Hakeem Khalik, who I don't remember exactly how it happened, but he was the one who he got behind our project. He came with us up to the Wake Up show. I know when we went into that freestyle, and we had just stayed in touch, and Hakeem ended up through his partner Hassan, getting us a meeting. He saw the momentum of the Flip the Bird brand, and was able to get us a meeting with Russell when they were out in Hawaii, and they saw brands like Kicks Hawaii, Information, getting off dope designs, and the streetwear and sneaker culture was just really starting to pop off, and they had their Run Athletics sneaker at the time. So we met, and in a brief encounter, at the Halekulani over breakfast, we were able to solidify a sneaker deal to where we would release 3 sneakers with design and release them through Run Athletics. They would be distributed worldwide, and then that also ended up creating a big opportunity for the brand to connect with artists who were also doing sneakers with Run Athletics, like Redman and Method Man. So as a promo for our sneaker, we tied in and did official t-shirts with Redman. We did one that said "How High," had the Run Athletics logo, and we got the blessings of the artists. So their official releases, as well as the Method Man, the now infamous Mahalo, where we flipped the Wu-Tang Method Man WM to say Mahalo and put Method on there. And those are official releases. And then even later on, shout to St. Alfred. Flip the Bird did a collaboration with St. Alfred and Def Jam for the Big Doe Rehab. That was an official release with Ghostface. So it was a Ghostface t-shirt, official release. We did La Coca Nostra. When Danny Boy came to town, we did Aloha Nostra. And these are like official, the artist signed off on it, and we released them limited quantities. Of course, we did the Babu Duck Season shirt, Duck Season 2. We did an Evidence collaboration, which is super sick. Raka still gets at me to this day because we still have yet to do the Raka one, but we're definitely doing that. And then the Malik Youssef Kanye West Presents t-shirt for the Good Morning, Good Night album. So all of these cool, hip-hop tie-in collaborations came about, I think, started from that Run Athletics. They gave us a certain amount of credibility. And also it sent, all of a sudden our brand was all over Europe, all over Japan, through their distribution. And we were getting orders for those Run DMC. We did a run shirt, Redman, Method Man, all those shirts. We shipped them out with the shoes. So we were all of a sudden able to build connections with those accounts, which I later went and revisited when I just had my own Flip the Bird stuff and kept that connection.
So
rolling.
How did you come up with the idea of the shoe, and what was the name of the shoe?
I wanted it to be the most Hawaii, sneaker. There had already been, the Kicks Hawaii Dunk, which is like top 5.
Yeah,
dunk. Yeah, so I wanted to go, that was definitely like the material, with the woven, all of that made that shoe so iconic. But I wanted to just do something that really embodied Hawaii, but different than what they had already done. I think Information already had the Pele dunks as well at that time. So what I did was we did the Humu Humu Nuku Nuku Apua'a pattern, the state fish of Hawaii. We put that on the shoe, and it turned out sick. Like even to this day, that pattern on the shoe, it works.
Yeah, it's fresh.
And we did the Bird of Paradise, which is kind of like match it up. We had a Technicolor shirt that matched it perfectly. These kind of like bright colors with also white and a white body, accents of black and brown and green, and I think like a matcha green, and they all had like the islands, embossed on the leather. Had the high state on the tongue, and the Flip the Bird logo and the tiki on there. Just over the top rep in Hawaii. We definitely wanted to take that opportunity, to rep for the city.
So it seems like Run Athletics was open to you and your design concepts?
Yeah, man. You know, it was a crapshoot. Who knows if they were gonna be like, oh, this is too local or whatever. But they embraced it and they saw, you know, the value in it, and definitely that was a big confidence booster for us as a brand. And then from there, you know, started doing trade shows, and at one point I was working with Sneak Tip. Shout to Marlon, and I think he was the one who brought over Israel from Foot Action. So that's how we ended up doing that deal, where they put us in 130 stores in all 50 states. Where even if you walked to Pearl Ridge and you went to Foot Action, you would see Flip the Bird up in there.
Amazing.
Or if you were in, you know, any city in the U.S., pretty much at that time, you would find a Flip the Bird shirt. Yeah, that was just a big part of the overall vision and the goals, you know, to try to achieve something and get outside of Hawaii, which is a big part of what I'm doing at this point. It's like I really, like, you know, what I've accomplished is good, and I want to actually, how I mentioned that the struggle of being an artist from Hawaii, a lot of opposition, a lot of just not too much support. You know, I think that a lot of that hasn't changed, and people just kind of doubting the, you know, the fact that we can make good rap music, good hip hop, you know, be dope hip hop artists out of Hawaii. So for them and the newer artists coming up, you know, just I kind of want to help and just tell my story. So if they can pull some ideas, and I'm always trying to reach out to the new guys too, as far as the new guys making music, making clothes. Let them know if they ever need any advice. You know, I've seen some of the pitfalls, and can maybe help them avoid it on their journey. Because, you know, I might have helped let the world know we got bars, but it's up to these kids now to let them know we got like some stars out here too, like some real big, take it to the next level type artists. And I think that's the direction, you know, that's always been the goal. Like I took it, you know, pretty far, but it's somebody else is gonna take it further than me. That's just how it works, you know what I mean? So.
You were talking about the support in Hawaii. You can talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, I think for me to talk about not getting support, it would be hella bogus, because I'm one of the artists that actually did get a lot of support. So I definitely, with Honolulu and all that, but as I mentioned, it took 8 years of just, you have to really believe in yourself, a lot of belief in yourself when nobody else is believing in you. And then you get moments where somebody like Sway will come to town and be like, yo, your shit is dope. Or Nas get off stage and Nas is like, yo, your shit is dope. And that shit is like a battery pack. Like, okay, all these other dudes out here competing with me who want to say that, you know, he ain't nothing, I should be doing this and that. Like, all that doesn't matter, dude. If the people that you respect and you looking up to, you know, sign off and say, yo, what you're doing is dope, you're coming correct, you moving in the right direction, that's all it takes, you know, to keep going, more than trying to make $1 million off of this. Longevity wise, it's more about the experience, the learning experience, the relationships that we talked about, and making dope shit and creating dope shit, and, you know, making it with the most legendary people on the planet, you know, which I've been blessed to do, you know, create music that won multiple Grammys, help make music that has gone multi-platinum, from behind the scenes, and contribute to stuff that from Hawaii, my ideas were able to somehow get interwoven into these, you know, huge releases that reach the whole planet. So that's something that we can all do with the right focus. Like we all have that creative gene in our, you know, with us at all times, ready to hold it down for the city, you know. And yeah, it's just a lot of persistence, keep not giving up, believing in yourself, and then eventually you're gonna start seeing, oh, okay, people actually digging what I'm doing, and yeah, keep moving.
Absolutely. That's bars right there, man. Thank you very much for the advice. So
Word.
you went ahead and went to Las Vegas. You moved out there. You were trying to buy a house, right?
Word. Yeah.
You went out there. You had your child,
Yes.
Johnny Taru,
Mm-hmm.
and you ended up moving back to Hawaii.
Yes.
What was the move? How did the move happen?
Well, that's pretty much it. Once I had my son, I definitely wanted to raise him in Hawaii. This is the greatest place, I think, to grow up. The experience of just of being able to go hiking, go to the beach, go do stuff in the city. Everything is right here, and it's more of a organic, natural feel. People, maybe it's just because I grew up here, people are more real. They feel more real to me. So, yeah, I wanted to raise him here, and and it's closer to my mom too, who's actually in Japan. So, hopefully we can go out there and visit. She's already come here a couple times and visited us too. So, yeah, that's a big part of when I moved back. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break right now. We got Tassho Pearce in the house. High State, stand up.
Hey.
Radio the way it should be.
You are listening to Slap Radio.
We back in the mix right now. We got Tassho Pearce. High State, stand up.
Yeah.
So you dabble in sake.
Yes, sir. Yep. I love sake. It's probably the best alcoholic beverage ever created.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have your own brand? You have a family business?
My dad has a import business with sake that I've been getting involved with, slowly but surely. But has some really great opportunities, through his relationship with the sake brewers to go out and actually brew sake. I would go for 3 weeks at a time and learn the whole process of making sake, and it's been a really great way to connect with my Japanese side. I was born in Japan, my mom is in Japan, and unfortunately hasn't manifested into my Japanese language speaking skills being so great. I'm still developing that, but that's the next step. I definitely want to learn how to speak. But yeah, definitely doing what I can to learn more and educate myself about sake and promote it too. I think is definitely a wave right now of good sake coming in, some of the best that's ever been available, and people really appreciating it too. So yeah, when I drop this new record, I'm definitely gonna have some sake in the videos, because I gotta rep. That's like family now. My dad has over the years, this has become like Ohana, all the sake brewers that he works with, and I've been able to meet. Definitely got love for those guys. It's a craft. It's definitely like a passion, the same way how we are about music. They are definitely, 10 times probably more passionate about their sake, because it's family, generations.
So what is sake made out of? What's the process like?
That could go on for a long time, but basically it's rice, water, yeast, and koji, which is kind of like a mold that they sprinkle onto the rice that converts starch. It creates an enzyme that converts starch to sugar, and then the yeast converts the sugar to alcohol.
Interesting. Looking forward to trying some of that.
Definitely, I'll bring some by.
Absolutely. So you said you had a new album coming out, H.I. Story. Can you
Yes,
talk about
sir.
that?
Yes, let's talk about it. It's been a long time, a long time coming. We've been talking about that story, H.I. Story, for actually a number of years. But actually, all the records on here are brand new. Everything was recorded in San Diego over my time there, over the past few years before I moved back. I moved back about a year ago. Got a feature on there. Got Connor Boy on there. Homie by the name of Mark Nazal singing on a hook. A track produced by Graves and TSRK. My homie K Sounds produced most of the record. I got Hassan to do a record as well. And I feel like it's one of my best releases, and for sure my most cohesive piece of content that I've ever put out. So I'm excited to display it to the world and show them what I've been up to,
Absolutely.
the last few years.
How much records are going to be on this album?
It's gonna be less than you expect.
Okay.
But it's gonna pack more of a punch than albums I've had in the past with more. I feel like because of the way that I've put it together, the sequence, it's more bang for your buck. It's just, I've always tried to, a lot of my albums, the last one was really long before Good Company. I think at 16, and you kind of lose people, like I'd rather just keep it short and sweet. So that's what we did.
Who mixed the records?
Actually, Jimmy Taco helped out with some of the mixes. My man Jericho, he helped out with some of the mixes, and as well as Jules Washington also helped. He did some good work on this project.
Shout out Blue Planet Studios.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're looking forward to that drop. You have a date in mind?
Real soon. I'll just locking in the cover art right now, so it's on the horizon. Like definitely before summer.
Okay.
Before summer, yes.
What can we expect other than the album from Tassho Pearce? Are we going to expect some more merch gear?
Yes. And I have no plans, but I'm just putting that into the universe, and we're gonna let it manifest and hopefully marinate and create something dope.
I'm sure something's going to come out dope of that. Yeah. How can people reach you?
Just on my Instagram, my Twitter, it's at Tassho, Tassho, which means Dragon's Laughter, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, you can get a verse in from Tassho Pearce. Ladies and gentlemen, Tassho Pearce, High State, stand up. Ladies and gentlemen, Tassho Pearce, let's go.
Hey, Slash Symphony, hey, yeah. Solo dolo like my man Cuddy. I was on a roll, but see my attitude was cruddy. Couldn't tell me nothing, I felt like they owe me something. Yeah, I did a lot, but brother, that don't mean nothing. Accomplishments are in the moment, you can't live in the past. I seen it all before, like a omen came to pass. Could have been avoided if I left my ego out. Yeah, it could have been avoided if I left my ego out. Got them trees in the closet, should be smelling like cedar. I'm holding 34 ounces now, I feel like a leader. Tell them we back, whether they're ready or not. Get your hands up if you ready to rock. This is some different shit straight from the tribes. Determined to win, I get it from my pops. City be with me wherever I go. H's up in the air at every show. Fitted in kicks from my head to my toe. And I flip the bird t-shirt, just tell it I know. Fuck everything that ain't real. Everything I spit is straight from the heart. Fuck if he car, fuck if he crib, fuck if I chart, fuck if I'm rich. What does it mean if my team ain't feeding their kids? If I lose my soul, then demons will win. That's how I know that it's me against them. Anything coming between me and their mens. Straight out the tropics, I'm dropping that hot shit. Thought I was chill till I started the mosh pit. Crowd lose their mind when I drop in the flows. Girls start to pop it and drop it down low. Now that I know that the party is raging, everyone in this bitch trying to get crazy. Let loose the beast hibernating inside of me. Lose any sense the good Lord has provided me. Hey, yeah.
Whoa,
yeah.
whoa. Dropping the bombs. We got Tassho Pearce in the house. Thank you very much for coming through. We got a special freestyle that he just spit right now. Good looking out, Tassho Pearce, man. Thank you very much, fam.
Respect, man.
Man, we appreciate you coming through. Check him out, Tassho Pearce. New album, H.I. Starry. Let's go. Slap ready. You listening in. DJ Drama. Mike on the back behind the lens. And Apollo.
Drama.
Whoa.
Yeah.